Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the KSP number 306-602-26D. This is a mortise cylinder housing is what it is. A fairly common, extremely common piece of equipment in terms of it being a mortise cylinder. But it's a derivative, naturally, of a mortise cylinder, and we'll go over that now. I don't sell a lot of KSP, admittedly, so I don't know how the part numbers break down, but we'll figure it out. First, let's do a little visual and a dimensional tour. This is likely 1 3/8 because it's a mortise, it's a small format housing. 1 3/8, the underside of the head to the back of the cam is what I'm looking for. It's interesting because that's really closer to about 1 3/16. This may be a 6-pin, although they say it's 7-pin as well. We'll discover what the truth of that is. I would think that this is a 6-pin. I would think that this is a 6-pin housing only, and I believe that because of the length. A 7-pin ought to be closer to 1 3/8. This is a small format housing. I happen to know that because I know the description is small format, but you can also know that because the lobes, top and bottom, are the same size. Other interchangeable core platforms, large format. Small format, large format. Large format are not the same size lobes, top and bottom. Generally, the larger lobe is a greater diameter. So they're two circles that aren't the same size. This is going to have the throw member that's in there. It'll have a staked cam. This is what they call a clover or a clover leaf cam. Very typical clover leaf cam when it comes to Corbin or Russ One applications. But a clover cam like this is very commonly seen in other applications as well. Falcon comes to mind. It all boils down to when you're determining what cam you need, because this is staked on. It's been the cam has been put on, and then the pins, the rivets, the pins that are there have been staked, so it's not removable or serviceable. You need to make sure that the Clover cam is the one that your lock requires, like mortise locks from Accurate in Connecticut. They require Clover cams. This is in a 26D finish. It's going to include a cylinder collar, which is very likely something that you'll need to have. This could be very typically going into a lock where you don't need such a long mortise cylinder. You know, unless you have an unusually thick door, 1 1/4 is too long of a cylinder. That reduces that size down by a 1/4 inch, is what that trim ring does. Sorry, you're not able to see that. Yeah, 1/4 inch. The other item that this is going to include is down in here, at the tip of my finger, you can't really see it, but back here is a hole that's been drilled and tapped. Into that, you'll insert this set screw down into here so that when you insert the mortise cylinder housing and get it exactly where you need it to be, you can insert that set screw and throw that or tighten that down, and it all but prevents that from being backed out because it's literally hanging right outside the 1 5/32 diameter, 32 threads per inch body tapped hole, pardon me, die. The threads have been cut with a die. That's sticking out of there, so it really prevents you from removing that, because if you can get the cylinder off the face of the door, you can probably get your finger in there and operate it. So that's what this is. It's a security measure. So that's the visual, that's the dimensional. Let's switch. Actually, let's talk about where you would use this. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Now, where you're going to use this is going to be obviously a mortise lock that requires a Clover cam, and that's going to be Corbin or Russwin, or again Accurate, any manufacturers whose lock requires a Clover or a Clover leaf, Clover type of cam. That's literally what we call that. It's a Clover cam. Many manufacturers use the term Clover when it's meant to describe the actual shape of this cam. If you try to use a standard cam or a Adams Wright cam or a Yale cam or a Schlage cam on a lock that requires a different cam style shape, the distance between the center portion and the outside portions, the depth of each cut, you're going to notice that you could probably start to get the lock to operate, but it just won't work. And if you were to study operating a mortise lock looking through the other side of the cassette, you can kind of see the problem with the cam and what you might need to do to actually possibly make it work. But I have found trying to make a square peg fit in a round hole, it just doesn't work. You might be able to get it to work one in a great many applications, but not often. You just always need the right cam. Now, the length is something that you're kind of handed. Because it's small format interchangeable core, you can't specify the length below 1 1/4" in 6-pin in some instances, or 1 3/8" in 7-pin. You'll never get one shorter. In other manufacturers' platforms, it's 1 1/2". So you're always going to need, unless you have an unusually thick door where you require a cylinder of this length. So something like this, 1 1/4" cylinder, you're going to need a door that's going to be 2-inch thick for sure. You're going to need cylinder collars. You could use it on a door of an unusual door thickness, but you have to calculate how long of a cylinder do you need, how thick are the trim rings, and the formula that I have come up with is door thickness minus gap plus C1 plus C2. Door thickness is obvious. The gap is when you put two cylinders back to back, what gap do you need to leave for the gap between the two cylinders, and anything that's on the inside of the lock that requires you to space or pull that cylinder back. So it's door thickness minus that gap plus whatever the collar is over here and whatever the collar is over here. If there is something on the other side, there almost always is. It might be a key on both sides, or it might be a thumb turn on one side. So door thickness minus the gap plus collar 1 or C1 plus collar 2 or C2. And that's where you'll end up using this. What's most surely happening is I need small format, I need 6-pin, or I need 7-pin, whatever the case might be. And you'll always be given the minimum length it's made at. Now, you could order technically something like this in any length, probably up to 6-inch for sure. I've done mortise cylinders that were extremely long, like inches, several inches long, because we'll have an unusually thick door, or we'll have an unusually thick door, but the lock is not centered. If you have a 5-inch thick door, and this is a real thing that we do semi-regularly, but it's biased 3 inches over or 4 inches over, you're going to need a long cylinder on one side and a standard or the shortest possible cylinder on the other side. So all that has to be calculated. And as far as I'm concerned, if you're doing a calculation for the cylinder where the lock's not centered, you're basically going to run that formula twice to achieve the length of one cylinder and what will be left over. But it's door thickness minus gap plus C1 plus C2. So that's where you're going to use this. It's a mortise lock, no doubt. Small format interchangeable core. Best is the about 100 years ago, actually. Frank Best, the founder of Best Lock, patented the small format interchangeable core concept. It has been cloned and copied, and KSP is on that list of clones and copies of that original small format concept. A brilliant idea, and in fact, it came about because Frank Best, before or in the 19-teens, World War I era, was a high school shop teacher, literally. He found that his key ring was huge. He had a bunch of keys, and that he was constantly using different keys to go in all these different doors. Well, what he wanted to do was to come up with one key that would run everything. Well, we would call it a master key, but you can't have a master key when you've got cylinder types, or I should say keyways from different manufacturers. Well, he couldn't then. Today we would use a multiplex structure. So as he's pulling all these cylinders out, meaning disassembling the locks to achieve what he wants, he really realizes the problem is the time it takes to disassemble and reassemble. And that's where the interchangeable core concept was born. Quickly and easily pulling that core out, quickly and easily putting it back in. You don't have to disassemble the lock. That's the key. All right, let's switch to the screen view and let's look at the supporting information. If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it. All right, here's the item that we are looking at. This is a factory image that we have here. Let's look at the extended description. Mortise and rim housings for SFIC, SUPLLY. We'll see if we can determine the source of that misspelling. SFIC 6 or 7 pin mortise housing, 1.25 is the length, Clover cam. It's made of brass, satin chrome finish. When you buy one, we're going to ship you one. Let's look at some photographs that we have. There's the box. That shows all the contents. The face of the unit. 1.25 nominally from the underside of the head to the back of the cam. 32 threads per inch, 1 5/32 diameter. That is a standard size for builder's hardware mortise cylinders. There are actually 4 diameters of mortise cylinders. 3/4, 1 5/32, 1.5 and 2 inch. All different applications that those are used for. That's your Clover cam on the back. Another view of it from the front showing you the 2060 satin chrome finish. We have another set of pictures here. The trim ring is here. A side view of it. The underside of it. This will easily crush and collapse if a wrench is put onto it, and that's somewhat the purpose. Okay, it's going to have a slightly greater diameter than the head of the cylinder, and it's going to just spin on the door. It will crush, but spinning on the door is what is designed by purpose. And there's a pixelated view of that set screw. Phillips drive. Now, okay, so 602, that's obviously the cam. That's what we've got. So in our part number, we've got a 306 and a 602. I bet that's a mortise cylinder housing 6-pin. Is probably what that is. Let's look at the installation sheet first, just for the sake of looking at that first. All right, not much to really see here. What they're showing is what they're showing is this concept of how to tighten that set screw using a slotted screwdriver. It's not easy to get that started in there, I can tell you that. But they're also showing you over here a installation tool. Some people find it very difficult to install a mortise cylinder when all you really have is just the very small pads of your fingers on a very small surface. So this is an installation tool that we sell where you can use this to help you, give you a T-handle to install the mortise housing into the door and the lock. But when you turn it around the opposite way, you can use this end to actually test the function of the lock itself. This end is for installing the housing. This end is for testing the function of the lock. So that's pretty helpful. Product catalog. There we go. Okay, this is a product catalog. So let's find our 306. Yep, I was right. So mortise and rim housings staked on. 306 is an 1.25 6-pin housing. So if you needed 7-pin, it's going to be a 7-pin housing, obviously. Now where that we'll have to get that misspelled word corrected. So we've got the part number for the housing in this column. It tells us the length and what its description is. We then have the 602 in the part number. That's this cam, and it's a Clover cam. And then we've got the finish. So this tells you how to put together your part number. Standard cam, Adams Wright cam, Clover cam, Schlage cam, and this is probably what's called a Yale cam. even though they're calling it a Sargent cam. Okay, Sargent. Yale, the 600 is the standard cam. That's also referred to as the Yale cam as well. But Yale's cam looks a lot more like the Sargent, except the Yale is bent at a slight angle. So up here there is not a cam for that application, so you might need to be wary whether or not KSP is an option for your lock. As you scroll through the rest of this catalog, you'll see other options and whatnot. This is going to be a screw-on or removable small format application. That's awfully nice. If you don't want to stock entire mortise cylinder housings, we'll get the cam version that features a removable cam. Then you just stock some cams, and you can go and come and go as you please. Stock 406s, 407s, some cams, some different finishes, whatever you need, keying kit, etc. And you can scroll through the rest of this catalog as you like. It's just there for your reference. Now, speaking of reference, there's a link below this video as seen here to the manufacturer's page, and from here you can pull up not only all of the KSP products that we sell by means of this horizontal navigation as seen here, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. Prior catalogs are here as well, and any encyclopedic documents that exist for this manufacturer or any manufacturer would be on the manufacturer's page and tucked in here. Let's wrap up this video on camera. If you've made it this far into this video, you must be determined to see it through to the end, and we appreciate your hanging in there with us and watching this entire video. It means a lot. It takes a lot of work to create these videos in the sense that you know, it's time taken away from doing other things. However, the advantage for me personally of creating these videos is the fact that it does allow myself to either learn about something new, to reacquaint myself with something, or to reinforce what I believe that I already know. Any comments that you might leave down below would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Now, in conclusion, if you have any questions on the 306 mortise cylinder housing or any other KSP product, please feel free to reach out to us. As I had said earlier, I don't sell a bunch of KSP. I just find that it's not asked for. And frankly, in the world of small format accessories, housings, mortise or rim, cams, and other accessories for combinating or pinning small format, there's lots of options. I generally like to use a factory original keying kit. So if we're doing Falcon, I like to use a Falcon kit. If we're doing Best, I like to use a Best kit. Just because I find it works better when you've got everything under one cohesive umbrella of manufacturer. But KSP, I don't know the project where this is going to. This could just be a commercial application. I'm looking at the paperwork, but I've got a large hotel on the Las Vegas Strip that uses KSP. Somehow it's worked into their specification, and when they've ordered material, that's what they've asked for. Any questions on this or any other KSP product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you very much. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you. Thanks to our clients, Architectural Builder Supply is building an additional facility. And what follows is not only a look at the acreage that we're building the facility on, but also first the architectural renderings as they exist, or at least the architectural plans as they exist at this time. Thank you very much. Let's take a look. All right, let's take a look at the architecturals as they exist at this moment, or at least it wouldn't be proper to call these architecturals, but it would be proper to call them renderings in the sense of they're conceptual drawings, they're not renderings. So the entire space is going to look like this in terms of a site rendering. This will be a 22,000 square foot building, of which will have specific purpose areas. There'll be a workshop down here. This is a few thousand square feet that will be likely woodworking, metalworking, CNC, things of that nature. This will be an office area here, a private office area. This will be Architectural Builders Supply expanded storage area where we will be able to do fulfillment. The entire space in the center is going to be all of the volume, as I call it. Large components will be able to be stored in stock there. Machinery that's too large to fit otherwise may be put out here. Specific facility rooms, and then some recreation over here. Let's take a look at that drone footage, and thank you very much for taking a look.